Today, I'm here with Bill O'Connell. Bill is the drummer and director of the Bill O'Connell Skyliners Big Band. Bill, how are you today?
Great.
Very good. We're going to talk about your band and FitzGeralds, and can you tell us a little bit about how you got started into big band drumming and playing and listening, and how you got into your own band?
Okay, sounds good. And thank you, by the way, for initiating this project. I think it's a great idea. Well, it's something that obviously we all believe in and promote. And when I was growing up, back in even the late '60s, jazz was kind of in a coma, and big band was pretty much dead. I mean,
Sure.
Rock was the rage at the time, and it was rare even that rock bands had horns. The soul bands did,
Yes.
and maybe just a few of the pop bands did. But I was an athlete really, and wasn't a musician at the time. I'm still kind of an athlete nowadays. I coach my kids' sports teams.
Okay.
And get out. I put the rollerblades on and skate with them. Because we do
Very
inline
brave.
hockey, and I still do volleyball and racquetball. But at the time, I was a baseball player, and I was aging out of Little League, and my dad was like, "Well, what's next? What do you want to do next?" And he was an insurance man at the time. He sold insurance to a guy who was one of the leaders of the Vanguard Drum and Bugle Corps from Des Plaines.
Okay.
Is that where you live, by the way?
Yes,
Des Plaines?
it is.
Okay, I grew up in Des Plaines. And so the Corps practiced at the Brandon Fairline hangar at O'Hare's. So this guy was always recruiting people, and my dad was like, why don't we go check it out? So we went into O'Hare, went in this hangar, and at the time they had over 100 members of, buglers, drummers, color guard, rehearsing, drill rehearsal. It was quite impressive. So because it was only about 4 or 5 months from the season starting, the competitive season, it was too late for me to learn how to play a horn. So they put me in the drum section on cymbals. They gave me a set of cymbals. And it was great. In fact, we won the world championship that year. It was 1968. And every year you kind of move up to a new instrument, timpani, tom, snare drum. So ultimately I was a snare drummer. But through my association with the Drum and Bugle Corps, I was really turned on to music with brass.
Okay.
So where a lot of my friends outside the Corps were into, hard rock music, I was turned on, Bill Chase and Chicago, still a favorite band of mine. I go see them every summer when they come around. And, West Side Story, Buddy Rich, Kenton, Maynard. So it was probably around '73. This friend of mine, a trumpet player, Guy Kammerer, he said, "Hey, Maynard Ferguson's playing at Gordon Tech High School. You want to come?" And so we went there, and I didn't walk in thinking much of it, but he blew me away. And he was still doing a lot of swing at the time, but he was transitioning into the pop, disco type of stuff. And it was kind of that night that I decided one day I want to form my own big band. When I started teaching in the fall of '77, I was kind of trying to establish my career, concentrating full-time on teaching. But I was playing weekends for wedding bands and clubs and things like that. And I remember there was one particular band that I played with regularly who I just really got tired of playing the same songs all the time, Celebration and Johnny
Sure.
Be Good. And, I decided that it wasn't about the money anymore. I really wanted to form a big band, and money or no money, this was what I really wanted to do. So the Skyliners, well, at the time I really didn't have a name for the group.
Okay.
So a lot of jazz groups kind of named after their leaders. So Bill O'Connell Big Band was the name of the group.
Okay.
And we worked like a church fundraiser. Put through the band together, went to Carl Fisher, bought a bunch of charts, had one rehearsal, and went out and did this thing to help the church. They gave us $5 a guy and all the beer we wanted to drink.
Okay.
So that was fun.
So things haven't changed.
Yes. So we and then after that I said, well, this is fun. Let's keep it going. So we started playing some bars and that sort of thing. And then ended up at Knickers Restaurant and Des Plaines. At the time, they had the Knickers Jitterbuggers Club, and they loved us. We would swing hard, and they would dance. And I still wanted to get more into jazz, though. I really wasn't into, playing dance tunes. But that club was calling us four nights a month, and it was the only club really calling.
Okay.
So I kept it going. But then I talked to Bill FitzGerald, and Bill gave us the opportunity. So now we were doing like the dance thing at Knickers and the jazz thing at FitzGerald's. And what was difficult for me was the dance guys really weren't great jazzers, and the great jazzers didn't want to play dance tunes.
Yes.
So I kind of had like two bands going, and finally I decided that, to really benefit, what I was trying to do as a jazz band leader, I got out of the whole dance thing. I left Knickers and concentrated on doing the jazz thing. Well, that started in '91 with working at FitzGerald's. The Skyliners I put together in '88. Ultimately, I wanted to find a new name. I wanted to find a regular name for the band, and it was just kind of coincidental. I brought one of my older sons to the Adler Planetarium, and we were just checking it out. And I've always been kind of into space and the planets and things like that. So when we were leaving the planetarium, I was looking north along the Chicago skyline, and the sun was beaming down. It was just an awesome sight.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, the Chicago skyline, what a great name for the band.
Okay.
So I know, kind of weird how it turned out, but but you don't want to really name your group after something you'll regret later. You want, if you're going to name your name, give it a name, you want to something that's going to sound cool and stick. And so I thought about it for a couple months, and finally said, let's go with it.
All right.
So
very good.
Long answer to a short question.
That's okay. Who were some of the folks that first played with you, and do they still play with you?
Nobody from that original weekend at that church are still with me, but I know when we started playing at a club in Mount Prospect shortly after that, I had heard that about this excellent lead player named Bill Calkins, which you probably remember Bill. I know you think he lives out in Montana or Colorado now, but he was playing for us, but he picked up another gig, and what's standard is you send a sub. So in setting up for the gig, and who comes in but Terry Connell.
Oh,
and Terry Connell goes, yeah, Bill Calkins sent me. So I thought, okay, cool. And Terry played the gig, and so he's probably been around since our fourth or fifth job.
Right.
Way back in '89 it would have been.
Who are some other folks that maybe weren't there at the start, but who have been some longtime members of the band?
Reed Spears.
Plays piano?
Yeah, and Reed was young when he came on the scene. I know he was doing like the boat gigs on the Chicago, on Lake Michigan at the time. And a singer and more of a pop or lounge kind of player, but he's really turned into one heck of a jazz player, and he's one of our principal soloists now.
Okay.
And Ken Partika, he's been around for a long time, and again, he was a young cat, came on the band, played second alto for a while, and when the time was right, I put him on first alto, and he's probably the best in town these days.
Nice.
Of course, John Mose, he's been holding down the lead trombone chair for a while, but he played third for a year or two, and then played second for a year or two, and eventually moved into the lead chair. But so yeah, Terry, John, Ken, and Reed. Keith Brady, the bass player, I met him playing with the Brass Tracks big band, and
Tom Fox's group.
Yeah, and he I played one gig with him, and I thought, man, I gotta find a way to work this guy in. My lead singer, Leslie Buchelman, she's been around for I don't know, 6-7 years, and that was just another one of those situations. I had a regular singer who Seemed to be kind of losing steam. He was with us for a few years, and it just didn't seem like it was a priority for him anymore. And
Okay.
we had our first outdoor gig every year is the Mother's Day brunch in Lombard. And at the last minute, he had something came up, and prior to that, one of Rob Parton's students, Leslie, filled in for with Rob at FitzGeralds, and I got a phone message on my machine from Harry Condon, one of the Chicagoland big band jazz guys. He was sitting with Dulcie over at FitzGerald's, and he's saying, Bill, there's this great singer sitting with Rob. You got to call her. So a few months went by, and when I needed a sub for that Mother's Day brunch, I called Rob, got Leslie's number. She came down unrehearsed. She brought 2 charts of her own and then read out of our book, and she's been our singer ever since.
Nice.
So
Very good. You play a lot of real high energy music, whether it's just the overall aggressiveness of the song, whether it's tempo. That seems to be a kind of a trademark or calling card of your band. Would you talk about the kind of why you choose the things you do?
Well, part of it is that drummers do tend to rush. Okay, and in fact, Sammy Nestico told me, he goes, you damn drummers, all you want to do is play fast. I think it's part of the energy, and also to me, it's kind of as a musician, when you go to FitzGerald's, it's a workout. It's not like a society gig where you play a few measures and then you wait, then you play and you make a lot of money and don't work up a sweat.
Right.
FitzGerald's, you don't make that much, but when I want the musicians when they leave there, I want them to feel like they got their butt whipped.
Okay.
Not in a negative way. I want them to feel good, like the challenge was there and they rose to the challenge, and even like when I play a drum solo, drum solos hurt. At least the way I play them.
You mean to hurt you as
Right.
opposed to the audience?
Oh, right, and so it's like well, why don't I had one kid came up and said, well, you play a lot of like Buddy stuff. Why don't you play more solos? Well, when I'm soloing, the other guys in the band aren't. And again, my job, I feel my mission is to feature them. If I don't, they won't want to come back and play anyways. So, but if you don't play a solo, then nobody really knows if you can play or not. I remember seeing the Buddy Rich tribute band with Marvin Smitty Smith on drums, and the whole set was going by. I'm like, yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I can do that. Finally, they let him take a solo, and I was like, wow, this guy really can play.
Okay.
So, I try to feature everybody in the band, but nobody will know whether the leader can play unless I take a solo myself. So, at the end of the night, I like it. I like it when a trumpet player looks like he fell off his bike. He's got a sore lip. And,
Well, you do a good job of doing that. Yeah.
Well, I'll take that as a positive. But hey, I love a great ballad too. Where a lot of swing tunes, they lay real nice and they're relatively easy to play. To me, playing a ballad well is even more difficult. I really learned this in the studio. You figure, well, we'll record the few ballads first because they're easy. When it comes to the time and keeping the whole band in time on a ballad, and the harmonic layers and everything, and getting everybody to really listen to exactly where they fit, it's difficult. So I love a great ballad. I try to every set play something that's like medium swing danceable, because even though FitzGerald's isn't a dance club, it's got a real small dance floor. For those that like to dance, I like to, but we're really not a dance band.
Sure.
Okay, we're a jazz band.
Yes. Who are some of your favorite writers or arrangers of their charts that you like to play?
Well, Sammy Nestico is the quintessential big band arranger, and maybe part of that is because that was the era I grew up in.
Okay.
The years he was with the Basie band in the late '60s and through the '70s. I like the bassy groove. I like the nesticle feel. Um, but besides that, I I I really don't gravitate toward any one composer or arranger. I just go by what feels good.
Okay.
And where I like the Buddy band, so I've got a lot of Buddy charts. Of course, Buddy didn't arrange. Maynard didn't arrange very often. And I've got a lot of Maynard charts. I like the earlier swing stuff, like the '60s stuff that he did with Slide Hampton and Don Sebesky and Micah Benny. That's kind of the stuff I like. Don Menza. But I listen to what's going on in the big band world through the radio show I do at WDCB, and I go on allaboutjazz.com. I look at the CD reviews. Okay. Of course, there's hundreds of them, but I kind of skip through the ones that aren't big band. I see the new big band releases. I'll email the leader saying, "Hey, I've got the show. If you send it, I'll play it." So I'm listening to what's going on, by the big bands around the world that are recording. And if I really like a chart that I think works well for my band, I'll contact the leader and try to get a copy or purchase a copy. Usually it's purchase. I guess you could say the Skyliner sound is basically songs that I like. And, and being, a drummer, I'm really not, some people say, he's not a musician, he's a drummer. I'm really, even though I do have an associate's degree in music, I'm not like, I depend on the section leaders to advise me on who the best guys are to call and call back. Because I can't tell you, who the best third bone player is around. I depend on section leaders to do that. I go a lot by feel. If I listen to someone solo, if it makes me feel good, even though it's not a brilliant solo that Miles would appreciate, if it makes me feel good, and that's just the way I feel pick out charts. It's how... If someone said, "What makes you feel good about that?" I might not be able to answer it. It's just a gut feeling, and it seems to work. I've been doing this a long time, and fans still keep coming out, so I must be doing something right.
A little while ago you mentioned listening to recordings, but you have also produced your own CDs. Do you want to talk a little bit about those?
Sure. We've got 7 of them. However, the older ones are out of print. The first one I worked with Sammy Nestico to do a reissue or compilation of bassy stuff from the Bassy Straight Ahead album. Okay. Because that was on a record company that went bankrupt or defunct, and it was just classic stuff that was out there. So a lot of the original charts were watered down for high school purposes. So Sammy sent me the originals. Nice. And we went in the studio and recorded them. Sold a bunch of them, which was great. Feels nice. Yeah. And then our second CD was called Jazz Alive, which was more like modern big band stuff that we like to do. And that was on Seabreeze Jazz, and did the Bassy Straight Ahead kind of got us introduced to Seabreeze. They realized we're a for real band and were willing to sign us. And then we did Unfinished Business, which was again modern big band jazz. After running out of a few thousand copies of Bassy Straight Ahead, we reissued it as Play It Again Sammy, which with some, taking the Bassy Straight Ahead sides with some modern Nestico arrangements, and that sold real well. Wanted to do a CD though that would promote what we do at park concerts, which is more the traditional big band songs, but modern arrangements. So when we do the older stuff, I don't like to do the old stuff the way it was done in the 40s. I think that a lot of our founding fathers, if they were alive today, would probably not be doing the way they did back then, because jazz is innovative and ever-changing. And so I think those innovative leaders would be probably doing more hipper arrangements of the older stuff, or putting them into medleys is kind of standard. Okay. That was a CD we called Contemporary Classics. And then I did a CD with Leslie. We did a vocal big band CD. And then one of my favorites was a CD we did called Chicago, That Toddlin' Town, which is, again, all modern swinging big band stuff.
So you've got 7 recordings in the book, and you've been playing for over 2 decades with as a leader of your own band. What would you say are some of the things that have been successful or made you feel good about what you're doing, and what have been some things that you have had struggles with?
Well, as far as the successful thing, I think I mentioned earlier about, people keep coming out to see us. So even though I kind of shot from the hip as an inexperienced leader, I must have done some things right over the years. Even one of the things that I failed to mention earlier was in the early 90s, I heard about this group called SPRA, the Suburban Park and Recreation Association.
I remember.
Okay, got the band in there as got an audition and started doing park concerts. And back in the day, we were doing 15 to 20 every summer.
Very nice.
Lately, because of the economy, the park districts have less and less money to do things like that, so they're either offering less concerts or looking for smaller, more economical bands.
Yes.
But we're booking for this summer. And I suppose the difficulty is booking the band and dealing with club owners. Of course, Bill FitzGerald is great. That's why going forward, hopefully he continues to do the big band thing on Sunday. But he just has that personality that people gravitate toward. And if there's something he doesn't like or feels you could do better, he approaches you in a very nice and non-confrontational way to try to benefit both the band as well as the club.
Sure.
It's a passion. And I'm fortunate that I have a day gig at Triton College. I've been there full time since 1983. That pays for the bills and allows me to pursue outside interests. I got 3 great kids and a wife. My wife Dawn, 23 years, who lets me do this for a living, or not for a living, for a hobby. That is, get away and do the radio show, and also do the band thing. I did mention the radio show. I thank the people at WDCB for letting me do it too. I am a volunteer. Us weekend people are volunteers. And I approached them about 15 years ago about doing a contemporary big band show. Big band's been on the air for a long time, but, since the 30s. But, I didn't know of really anybody that does the contemporary big band sounds. The bands nowadays that are struggling, and the regional groups doing the things like all the bands do at FitzGeralds. And I'm trying to promote them and keep this art form going. And since WDCB has been on the web at wdcb.org, we have listeners from around the world.
Yes. It's a nice thing.
And but I'm more than anything, thankful to the musicians, like yourself, who have a passion for this and want to do it, and to Bill FitzGerald, who has kept this thing going. And honestly, I'm not giving you an idea here, Bill. You could probably make more money on a Sunday night if you bring a rock band in. But thanks for keeping it going. And to the people that continue to come out and watch us there. The neat thing about the FitzGeralds, which is different than our park concerts. The park concerts, those people who go to the park and see pretty much any band that's there on that Wednesday. They're not really big band lovers, but it's a chance for us to get a new audience. Maybe a few people in the crowd go, wow, I love this, I want to follow you guys. People at FitzGerald's, these are dedicated jazz lovers that really appreciate what we do. And of course the Chicagoland Big Band Jazz Society, they're doing their part too to try to keep this going. So, anything else?
I think we're good.
Okay.
I've enjoyed listening to you talk a lot. So.
Obviously, I like to talk about this.